Oh, so fancy. Hey, Kelly Starrett with Mobility One, hanging out with Matt Vincent, talking about how we're conceptualizing the big picture of rehab.
Yep.
Matt's going to have knee surgery, and it's a pretty aggressive knee surgery here in about a month.
Yep.
And you got a couple more competitions.
I have 3 left, and they all are pretty important, so no coast.
No coast. So this is the conversation. If it was my dream, I would say, hey, look, we're done. Right?
Yeah,
Let's back off.
Let's just prehab this thing.
Right. And there's no such thing as prehab. It's only training with a bum joint.
Yeah, so I've got national championship in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, September 25th, 6th, and I have surgery the 28th.
As you should be.
Plenty of window there.
Plenty of window. So this knee, for you, you're still functioning. And this is not an issue that Matt is taking massive amounts of anti-inflammatories.
Not really anything.
Hiding, right? It's just that, like, hey, this knee is not right. And he's making a big boy decision because he's a professional athlete. And you have sponsors, and this is what you do, and commitments, and people show up for you. And this is the reality of professional sports.
Finish season.
So we just did a little piece about, hey, some goals on beforehand. Setting goals, shifting loci of control, optimizing, all the things that you can do to set up that knee for as healthy a recovery as you can.
Right. Just kind of stack the cards in my favor to have that surgery go
That's
as
right.
good as possible.
So now we're talking about, around the knee, there's some specific goals, but now we're talking about how do I manage? Because first and foremost is you're going to, have to do the time.
Yep.
Now, I hear all the time, and the physios say all the time, people be like, I'm a fast healer. I'm like, oh, right. You're so different than all the physiology out there.
It's strange now that I've been older and I've had some injuries and I've trained enough, I guess, training age that, when they basically told me, for the scope, they said, you're looking at 6 weeks to your full recovery. I said, cool. I'll plan my first competition 10 weeks from now.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not in any hurry. There's no reason to rush out of the gate, do damage, and then really shit the bed. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and screw it up right off the bat. Just be smart, and then it works for the next 10 years.
Yeah, what we like to say is the first day sets you up for the third day. And if you're already behind on the third day, then you're not going to be great on the 10th day. And the earlier, our aggressive rehab protocol is to be hyper conservative. And that doesn't mean we put you up on the couch and leave you alone.
That's definitely not what we do.
What I like to do is see athletes, and our basic protocol is when you wake up from surgery, so we'll talk about it. So one, understand you got to do the time.
Yep.
There is a bell curve of function, right? And I agree that you may be a fast healer or you may be eating right and sleeping right. That means you're on one standard deviation away. Yeah, wish. No, you understand. The laws of human physiology do not apply to me.
I'm different.
Right. And what we see is a lot of athletes go back too soon, and then they then don't have the outcomes that we want, especially when we're working articular surfaces, right? So when a surgeon sets up rehab guidelines, those guidelines are based on how the human physiology heals. It's about how do we systematically progress and load so that we don't manage to injure a tissue or pull a suture. Here's a great example. At 6 to 8 weeks, most people are like, I feel great, pew, pew, pew. And they start doing stuff, and right then on an ACL graft sometimes is when the graft is its weakest self.
It's like, bleh.
Yeah, and then that's when you pull it out, right? So
that's when to go get into some pickup basketball games.
Yeah, dude, I feel good. I got no swelling. Let's go. Let's do this. Skadoosh, right? And so you understand that, on surgeries like this, for me, the surgery life cycle is a year. It's going to take a year before you feel like a rock star. Perfect. Because it just takes that long for the tissues to finally fully mature and your nervous system to come around. It doesn't mean that you're not at full function, but we can still have you winning championships at 80%.
Right.
But it's going to be a year, right? Yep. And that doesn't, again, this is not a year of suffering. This is a year of
it's training.
We're going to be training your brains out.
But it's still training smart. It's training in a little bit more controlled setting, a little bit more.
You should not, do not take it on yourself to go exceed the rehab guidelines. They are there because they're set up for your tissue healing times, not to keep you limited, right? Okay. So one, understand you just do the time, but that means it's a diligent fight every day to stay ahead of the physiology.
Right.
Right, because you're swelling. So we do the time. The second thing is the first thing. Second thing,
B or C, whatever.
The day you get out of surgery, the first hour, You're waking up. I want a Mark Pro.
On it. On the quad.
That's right. And that means you may need to talk to your surgeon or explain. Or when Juliet came out of surgery, I was like, hey, babe, how you doing? It's so great. And I put the pads on her herself, and we immediately start pumping. And what's happening is that usually we're spending 12 hours in bed, or we may be an outpatient. It could be longer.
Yeah, I'll be overnight.
Right? So you're overnight because it's a big deal. And you know, you may lose blood or not. But what we're seeing is that first hour, you know, this is the analogy our friend Gary Reynolds says. If you know it's going to snow an inch an hour for the next 12 hours, you can go out once an hour and just kind of sweep off the snow.
Yeah,
right?
it's no big deal.
Or you can wait till there's a foot of snow and you're not going to need a brush.
Fight for half a day.
That's right. And that's the difference.
That makes a lot of sense.
If we can stay ahead of your swelling, innate, natural, normal, important swelling process, that's how your body is healing. And the healing isn't a mistake. It's the failure to evacuate the swelling that's a mistake. And especially in these modern surgeries where we can't bend the limb.
Right, yeah. I know I'll be straight legged for like 6 weeks.
That's right. Non-weight bearing. Or touch no weight bearing, just laying it down.
Yeah.
And the idea here is then, okay, what are my ways to address the swelling? And that's why I have to have a neuromuscular unit. That's why Mark Pro for us is the best, because I can start pumping that thing right away.
And I know the Mark Pro is an expensive unit, and I've been fortunate enough to get my hands on one. But I mean, let's say you don't have that available. Would a basic 10 unit be better than nothing?
Anything that gave you a solid muscle contraction, I'll take.
Perfect.
Right. That opens up the window. And the idea here is, hey, how am I going to manage that? Well, can I get a compression sock on? Damn straight I can. So right off the bat, I'm rocking compression.
Yeah, I bet I come out of surgery with one already on.
You'll come out with this Pinche white surgical sock, but
They're
you are. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, I think you can leave it on and be like, yes, ma'am, I'll totally wear this, and then slip on your favorite brand, Skins, whatever. I took
a set of the Skins, like the A400, the good compression pants, and I just cut one of the legs off and just use that whole leg sleeve.
You should be thinking compression to manage the interstitial space. If it's not large, it's not going to swell. And if I can pump and wear compression at the same time, I pump out and it just stays small. Nice. And that is a massive, massive game change. And most surgical sites, surgery centers, are going to put some kind of compression boot on you because they're worried about DVTs, they're worried about the fluid stasis, right? But if you're pumping and you're out compression, you're going to rock this. This is a huge idea.
Awesome.
The other thing that happens when we get compression or the contraction is that we desensitize because of movement. Your brain is getting this movement signal, and it's not going to be flooded with a pain signal. A lot of times they're shoving a bunch of Marcaine into the joint. They're maybe doing a local joint block, and literally your brain is like, you wake up and you're like, I feel great.
This feels no big deal. Day 3, I'm miserable.
And you haven't taken any meds because you don't feel good. And then all of a sudden that thing wears off, and your brain is crushed with a pain signal. It's really difficult to back out of that. And you're going to have to take a massive amount of drug to get over on the other side. So what we'd rather you do is be able to move. And when you're moving, like it's like banging your hand, you're like, oh. And your brain cannot hear the pain signal if we're getting a movement signal. And that's that pain gate theory. And so one of the things that happens with that movement is that one is we are pumping out all the fluids right through the lymphatic system, which is the only way you're going to drain that. 2 is that your brain is getting a movement signal, and because it's moving, your brain is also not afraid to move. It's not going to be pain guarding, which is a big deal, because a lot of times people who get flooded with pain, they run into that dam that breaks. They're like, oh, and then they won't move, right? And then the brain just shuts everything down. But if it's moving constantly, then when the pain wears off, your brain's like, oh yeah, it's fine, we're moving, right? We've been moving. 3rd, what we get with that contraction is that the tissues, and you can look up at the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, this is how they recommend healing. We need moderate loads on the tissues so that the scar tissue starts to align correctly. And if I don't have that line of force pulling through the tissues, I'm going to end up with a scar ball. But if I'm constantly just low grade pulling on those tissues, then all the fibroblasts go, oh, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and so we're clear. This isn't like running the Mark Pro. I'm not blasting it on full blast.
You're getting a good contraction.
It's moving.
You're getting a good contraction. Comfortable, no pain contraction. Shouldn't hurt.
What's pain-free? What's accomplishing?
That's right. Why would we hook you up into a pain mechanism? The other thing that happens when we get this contraction going through the musculature is we maintain the connection between your brain and the limb. And one of the things that happens infamously is that you have to do these quad sets where you're like tapping your quad and doing all this feedback and like you have to flick your quad a whole bunch to try to maintain. But if you never lose the connection between your brain and your quads, what happens?
Right.
You don't have to come back from scratch.
That's
right?
way ahead of the game.
Big time. Also, is that muscle contraction, your brain starts kicking out this thing called an anti-wasting hormone, which means you can maintain your quad mass. The biggest difference we see in athletes who are thinking about movement early and thinking about swelling early is that they come out and their quads are the same size.
Far less atrophy.
Oh my God, like almost zero.
Oh, awesome.
But if you want to just wait 3 or 4 days, by
I
all
need these
means.
boys. I need them to stay with me. My money
That's true.
makers.
That's true. I'm just saying. So it makes a big deal, and I want to be pumping within the first hour.
Okay.
Right. So
That's just gotta work
you just
cut out.
got to you just put the pads on and pump. And what we're looking for is, I'm not pulling on a surgical site. I stay away. But one of the things we also notice is that in our athletes who use some kind of neuromuscular TENS device is that we don't get any surgical holes that make basically tunnels. So as they've gone through into the capsule, because those tissues are constantly moving, we don't see them get adhered down, so I have to do far less scar abatement after surgery. Does that make sense?
It does.
Right? So big time, and you're sleeping on it. It's 24/7.
Yep.
You ask me the question, will I go blind doing it? And I'm like, when your hands and palms get hairy, let me know. Because we have not seen anyone go blind. And what you'll find also is that it's very soothing. Because it's moving, you're not getting any pain signals, and you can totally sleep with it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I was able to sleep after the last surgery. The problem is I don't sleep on my back well, but
Yeah.
the medication helps.
So this is a big deal, and what we want to talk about is sleep. And one of the things that we see is that athletes post-surgery, or especially in a bad environment, you need to tell the staff, this sleep is crucial to my healing. I've just had a surgery. Make sure that I don't have a blood clot. I haven't stroked
Don't
or
wake me up
coded,
every
right?
hour.
But do not wake me up. And you need to have that conversation with your surgeon, because this is, for you, it's about, hey, I need to get that sleep that first night. Also, this is between you and your physician, but if you need sleep support, this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Right? If there's help so that you can get restful sleep, you're anxious or in pain, we want to manage those things. If you're not sleeping, you will not be healing.
Right.
Right? That's a big deal. And for us, the magic number post-surgery is 10 hours, which is the same that we'd recommend for all our athletes training at elite levels. Are you trying to get
10 hours a day.
10 hours a day. And what we ask, and that can be a nap, 8 hours in a nap.
Right.
And there's another mini nap, but we should be shooting for that magic number of 10 hours.
Okay.
Right? So you're seeing, right off the bat, what we're doing is we're creating an environment where I'm managing the insult from the swelling from the surgery. I am addressing the fact that I'm not going to be able to weight bend, weight bear, things like that. Sleeping is a big deal. Nutrition is crucial. And this is the time to not fall off the bandwagon or fall off the wagon and go carb heavy. This is
I
the
was
chance.
told cheeseburgers fix knees.
Without buns.
Yeah.
That's fine. Protein is high. This is a chance to even mess around with ketosis,
Go to it.
right?
Why not?
Under 100 grams of carbohydrate, you're not moving. This is an amazing time to work on being squeaky clean with your nutrition. Making sure that you're getting enough protein, you're getting high quality fats, but you're not going through these massive insulin spikes, which we know affect healing and pain. If I had a guy come in one time, he had just had a meniscus transplant surgery. And we were talking to him about, and his knee looked like junk. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, talk to me about this. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. I was like, what'd you have for breakfast? He's like, box of cereal.
Box of cereal.
And I was like,
yeah.
Jerome, are you trying to reject your meniscus? And
No
he's like,
inflammation.
oh man, you're just pouring gas on a fire. Don't do it. Don't do it. You want to put those
Yeah, but it
glycogen
was
flames
Lucky
out.
Charms.
Oh man, I think it was like, oh, and then literally he started eating some eggs for breakfast, and I was like, do not drink the juice, do not eat the white bread toast they bring you. You're gonna just have to be a human being when you eat in there. This is a chance to pretend and show the world that you're actually an athlete.
Yeah,
you're
right.
an athlete. Eat
Respect
like an athlete.
yourself.
That's right, and that means actually you might have to bring some food in the hospital.
Yeah.
But at home, again, this is something you can control, right?
Yep.
Rob Wolf has done a ton of information on this. Take a look at Rob Wolf, ROBB Wolf, if you don't already know him.
He's paleo guy.
Yep, and a lot about nutrition, healing, and carb restriction can really help with some of this.
Awesome.
And not for women, we're not saying go carb free, right? That can be a problem. But for men, definitely we'll see a bump in testosterone and a little kick when you start to carb deplete. Women, you got to, per Stacy Sims, 120, 130 grams of carbohydrate a day baseline, but that's adding a couple scoops of rice to your thing, right?
Have some steaks, have some avocados.
Should not be hungry. That's exactly right. That gallon of milk a day, I'm like, no.
Like a 12-ounce ribeye, cover it with avocados, and 12-ounce ribeye.
Didn't
steak sandwich.
Burger King make that sandwich? It was like
No, that was
KFC.
KFC, yeah.
It's genius.
It was
Okay,
brilliant.
so that's sort of lifestyle stuff,
Yep.
right? One of the things that we see big time is that athletes like, hey, I don't need these crutches.
Ugh.
Use your crutches.
Damn it.
And the reason we want to use our crutches is that we're trying to let those tissues chill out.
And this is going to be big for me, especially because we're going to implant cartilage.
That's right.
And this is supposed to be super fragile for the 6 weeks.
So a couple things, for you particularly, but we see athletes who don't want to use their crutches. And for me, I'm like, hey, the reason we're trying to give these tissues a chance to chill, that's why we're using the crutches. And you walking around like, you've got Captain like a wooden leg.
Cool. Now everything's really tight.
Yes,
My low back,
yes.
glutes,
What are you
and-
doing?
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of old episodes about how to use crutches. You can turn out, pretend like they're gymnastics rings all the time, right? And the idea is use your crutches. Here's a big deal. Anytime we have a lower leg surgery, when you're up a bunch, gravity is working against you. Gravity is trying to kill you all the time. So when we say elevate, right, because the crutches, you're still what we call dependent, but I need you to elevate. And that means not I lay on the couch. I means I lay on the couch and I put my leg up.
Yeah, leg
Because
against the wall.
gravity does make a difference. So if you can get that leg really high, knee high, way higher than your heart.
Yeah, basically, I mean, what I've found really good is if I can back my butt up against the wall and put my legs up.
Great. And I know that's not a long-term sustainable solution, but it makes a massive difference. And what ends up happening is when you're up on your crutches nonstop, because you're busy and you're like, I'm not going to let this knee thing get in my way of my... Then the knee drains, and then your ankle is gigantic, and your tissues are puffy, and it's a disaster, right? Right up. Next day, guess what you get to do? Intervals
Assault bike.
on the assault bike. And some of it is, hey, a good way to do this is I just want to get you processing all of the crap they put into you to make you go to sleep.
Is the Mark Pro still running while I'm doing intervals?
Jump off that.
Okay.
You get a chance off. But intervals means like my favorite is we're just going to go 50 seconds on and then 10 seconds hard.
So just kind of like a maintain 50 seconds and
That's
a 10
right.
second sprint.
You're just like,
Give it
so
out.
easy, just zip, 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 right? And the goal here is 20 to 30 minutes, and you're going to feel like death. And a lot of people are like, hey, that's no problem. They do it for the first time, and they're like, bleh, and they're barfing. I want to see an athlete exercise the next day.
Yep.
And part of that is for your own brain to be like, everything's cool here. Leg goes up. You can put your other foot on a skateboard and row. But the assault bike solves the problem, so it's got that
Right.
right? Then when we're for you, comes right back into some basics. No swelling. Your chief and foremost goal is not to get strong, but to manage the swelling response.
Yeah,
So
plenty of time to get strong.
if I am working with an athlete, I am ahead of swelling in 24 hours. Let me repeat that. We're ahead of swelling in 24 hours. So if you show up the next day and your knee's swollen, I'm like, what have you been doing? You've been lying to me.
nothing.
You've been standing up and walking around, and you haven't been pumping, you haven't been compressing. And we were just talking, if I can get ahead in that first 24 hours, that sets me up for much more success day 5, much more for success day 13, and it literally is this geometric progression. And the difference between people who are ahead of their swelling in that first 24-hour window to not is I can show you an athlete who's going to play pro football again at 3 months and one who's not. It's
Okay.
that important. Manage your swelling. If the knee is swollen, remember, we're going to be loading it, right? In rehab, we're going to be training. It's going to just be dangling. So swelling is something that we're going to be dealing with, right?
Yep.
It's like the communist threat.
Yeah.
Right? And so manage your swelling. Second is when your leg is locked out, you're going to be seeing a physical therapist who's going to be doing some gentle range of motion, mainly making sure that you can, keep your terminal knee
So go
extension.
see a physical therapist.
Yeah, you need for the acute rehab, physio is the best.
Okay.
Right? We are so good at this acute rehab cookie cutter. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, but it makes a massive difference
All right.
to see a physio. Mainly they can make sure your kneecap is floating around. We can make sure that the scars are looking good. We can manage your terminal knee extension. Right? There's some very simple low-level things. But you also can do what? If your leg is locked out in a brace, people are like, well, what am I going to do about the stiff quad? Smash. So smashing becomes part of the key process here.
Nice.
So lots and lots of smashing. Like if you had a kettlebell with a mobility sleeve on, like a sleeve on, like a kettlebell koozie, right? This would be a fantastic way. And this is an amazing way to address the stiffness that's building because you're not moving.
Right.
And you know, if you're a squatter and you don't squat once a week, what happens?
Everything goes to hell, yeah.
That's right. You got to move. And so what we're going to do is saying, hey, because I can't move, I'm going to address the tissue stiffness. And I can still work, I can still lay my leg on the bed and open up my hip, right? I can still be doing things like that and protecting the leg. I mean, this thing's not going to be, it's not hyper fragile. We just can't load it, right? And we're not going to be able to bend it. So that means that those tissues are going to get stiff. So when you're having a kettlebell in your home, it's going to be crucial so you can get into the calf, right? So that you can get into your quad, so you can get onto your hamstrings. And I guarantee you, if you do some soft tissue work, everything's going to change, right? Then it's really about following the protocol. So your training means, especially if I'm non-weight bearing or touchdown weight bearing, it means I can't do much on it. It means I can sit and exercise, I can sit and press, I can
lay down and do floor presses.
That's right.
I can do pull-ups.
You can sit and press.
Yep.
You got pull-ups, you got push-ups, you got assault bike, right? You could, I mean, if you want to Olympic lift on one leg, you can.
I mean, but that's the thing, right? So we're talking about, realistically here, I've got 6 weeks of critical time post-surgery that I really can't be weight bearing on the leg. I'm not going to lose the strength that I've built over the last 20 years or 30 years.
No. You'll be at 89%.
Exactly, which is fine. And then the muscle memory, because I'm already doing the right things and I've got the quad firing and I'm not having swelling, as soon as I'm said, you're good to go.
Yeah.
It comes back.
That's right. And that's where all of this is about. Can I manage the implications of the swelling and the implications of my life so that I can, be ready to load the tissues? Because when the door opens, I want to be ready. When I start to systematically load. Again, we've talked a lot about this, but once you're discharged from rehab, when they can start to systematically load those tissues, because once they say you can squat to a high range, we're air squatting. Yep. We're box squatting, air squatting. And it might be like, we're going to do 10 today, 20 tomorrow, and 30 the next day, and 50 the next day. But the first thing you do, and this is crucial for me, is that if you've had a knee surgery, you squat every day.
Yeah, that was actually good post, the rehab for the meniscus clean out.
You get to squat every day. And it doesn't mean we're loading heavy. Basic linear progressions rule the day, right? It's very simple, controlled ranges. Again, we're back to that tempo stuff, but it's letting the tissues know we're coming and to systematically build that overload.
Yeah, I'm a comfortable 600-pound squatter. I bet I could probably squat 5+ right now on the bad knee.
That's right.
If I had to. And I started with 135 or the bar to a high box.
That's right. But it's every day.
Yep.
So squatting every day, and that can be, if you don't have a rack at home, that's just a ball, that's a goblet squat, or even just an air squat to the chair. We try to verticalize the shin, which isn't the way we're going to torso up. It's not a very torso upright squat. It's a torso forward squat. And that verticalized shin really gives me hamstring control and eliminates a lot of the shear. As the knee comes forward, I get a lot of shear through the hamstring. So one of the things that we're doing in our motions are staying in ranges where we can keep the vertical shin. That means deadlift starts to open up again. We don't load speed. We don't kettlebell swing right away. We slow and tempo hinge. We squat, right? We do single leg stuff where the shin's not shooting forward, and that will come with time. But already, this is so much work to be done, and that by the time we're starting to systematically load, the body is ready to receive that next tissue load.
It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to have my knee not be a problem.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things we see is that a lot of athletes hang on too long, and you finally get to this place where you're like, I'm tired of battling this, right? Because whether you like it or not, you cannot generate the force on the leg that you wish you could.
Yep. No, I'm tired of the big thing that's come to me now is like throwing really doesn't aggravate it, which doesn't make a lot of sense because I figured the spinning and grinding would be trickier.
It's light,
but it doesn't weigh anything. But I can't currently train anymore the way I need to be good at my sport.
That's right. Time to get surgery.
Time to fix it.
Why do we get surgery? For pain. And by the way, this is my personal opinion, but if you're an athlete, you need an ACL.
I'd like to have 2.
Used to brag, you're like, I don't need no ACL.
ACLs
I got
are
hamstrings.
cowards.
And the reason we need an ACL is that your ACL is it's a seatbelt for your knee.
Well, that's why I got bone spurs.
That's right. You've been slamming around.
Those things stop it.
They're cute.
They're great.
Cute. They're totally cute. One time I was in surgery with John Wellborn. We pulled out a rock out of his knee, and it made a little popping noise through the portal. It literally was like, and we all laughed.
Oh,
John Wellborn. Hey, Matt Vincent, this is the template. I hope that that helps you guys conceptualize the things that are important to us. Again, you're going to follow the advice of your physical therapist that you trust. You're going to be ready to see her every day. You know, your physician is not trying to keep you down.
Nope.
Your physician is a master carpenter and a master physiology minder.
They're smarter than you.
This is a chance for you to follow those lines and be an excellent informed patient. Don't be a pain in the ass, but set the conditions up where you walk in, the surgeon's like, you know, she's like, your knee looks great. What have you been doing? You're like, you know.
It's been amazing.
Just being cool. See you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw today, you should come over and join us at M1 Pro. For about 23 cents a day, you can get daily follow-along mobility programming. We have an extensive archive of over 2,000 videos to help you improve your position mechanics and help you resolve your old injuries and issues. Please, come join us. We'll see you there.